the immune system, or more specifically, the body's innate immunity and acquired immunity. Innate immunity is the body's natural defenses against microbes, or pathogens. These include skin, mucus, chemical defense, inflammation, and natural killer cells. The outermost layer of defense is your skin, and this protects you from direct exposure to pathogens or microbes. The skin is like the wall around the city that is your body. Mucus is the second layer of defense. Mucus can be found inside your respiratory system or digestive tract. It could also be considered saliva or snot or earwax. Mucus stops the microbes or pathogens from getting into your body by adhering to them and getting them stuck. Some mucus, like saliva, contains lysosomes that denature and destroy microbes or pathogens, like the giant spider eating the bugs out of a sticky fly trap. This level of innate immunity is chemical defenses, and these are performed by leukocytes. There are 4 different kinds of leukocytes. Most of these leukocytes get rid of pathogens by performing an act called phagocytosis, which is the engulfing and destruction of pathogens. Leukocyte number 2 is the macrophage. The macrophage is the orange man in the picture. He engulfs the microbe or pathogen and breaks it down, then attaches to a lysosome, which either poisons with nitrate oxide or denatures the microbe and destroys it. The macrophage then releases the remnants and they pitter away. Leukocyte number 3 is the eosinophils. Eosinophils attach to a microbe or pathogen and release an enzyme that denatures and destroys the microbe. Leukocyte number 4 is the dendritic cells. They do the same job as the macrophage, but are more important to acquired immunity. You'll see him later. Next level of innate immunity is the inflammatory response. When you get a cut or break the skin, the mast cells that make up your tissue release histamines, which dilate your capillaries, increasing blood flow, which causes the area to swell. Now, this may feel uncomfortable and hot to you, but inside your body, it is the most positive thing that could be happening. More blood flow equals more leukocytes. You swell, but that's good, because that means that there's more clotting element, more macrophages, and more antimicrobial proteins that destroy any impending pathogens or microbes. This swelling helps prevent infection. The last level of innate immunity are the natural killer cells. The natural killer cells target infected body cells and cancerous cells. They recognize traits on the outside of these cells and cause apoptosis within them, getting rid of the infection or the cancer. And now we're on to acquired immunity, which involves B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. These 2 lymphocytes involve antigen receptors, which means that everything must be specific. That is the key to acquired immunity. And now we're on to acquired immunity, which involves B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. These 2 lymphocytes involve antigen receptors, which means that everything must be specific. That is the key to acquired immunity. On the B lymphocytes, the receptor is Y-shaped, having 2 antigen binding sites on it. The T cell receptors have an A chain and a B chain. These chains recognize class II MHC on the surface of cells that present the antigen. MHC is very important to the T cell, and the T cell and MHC are very important to the proper use of the immune system. There are 2 kinds of T cells: helper T cells and cytotoxic T cells. Cytotoxic T cells recognize the class I MHC on the outside of infected body cells, or cancerous body cells. This presentation of the MHC lets the cytotoxic T cell know that the cell is infected and must go through apoptosis or be destroyed. When a dendritic cell, I told you see them again, or the macrophage, engulfs the pathogen, they present the antigen on the outside of them, and this also causes a presentation of the class 2 MHC molecule. Now, the helper T cell can connect to the antigens presented on the dendritic cell or the macrophage to help to release cytokines that trigger 2 more immune responses that we will learn about later on. The class 2 MHC here just helps the T cell stay connected to the dendritic cell or the macrophage. Presentation of the antigen to the helper T cell causes a cascade of other things to happen. These other things, quote unquote, are the 2 different kinds of acquired immune responses, the cell-mediated response and the humoral response. B cells are used in the humoral response, and in the cell-mediated response, T cells are used, specifically cytotoxic T cells. And the helper T cell also goes through a few changes to speed up the process of killing the pathogen if there is a second exposure. This page looks confusing, but I'll explain. The dendritic cell up at the top, you see, he's very important in the acquired immune response because he is the one that exposes the antigen fragment to the helper T cell. This turns on the helper T cell, which then releases cytokines, and we will go into more detail about each of the responses on the next 2 pages. In the cell-mediated response, the antigens displayed by the already infected cells trigger cytotoxic T cells. Now, the helper T cells also activate cytotoxic T cells, and this causes the cloning of memory cytotoxic T cells, which are off and are saved in the body for a secondary exposure, and active cytotoxic T cells, which go into direct combat with the pathogen at the time. Pathogens or antigens that are still intact trigger B cells. The helper T cell helps the B cell create plasma cells and memory B cells through the process of cloning. Plasma cells go into direct combat by releasing antibodies that can destroy the pathogen. And memory B cells are created so that if a secondary exposure happens, the helper T cell can quickly trigger the cloning process again. Now you have AP leveled up. We are going to talk about proteins. CD4 protein, not meaning the fourth CD, helps the helper T cell stay attached to the class 2 MHC on the dendritic cell. This attachment lets the dendritic cell transfer the antigen fragment to the helper T cell. Without CD4, the helper T cell would not be able to stay attached to the dendritic cell's MHC, class 2 MHC. So CD4 plays a very important part in the beginning of the acquired immune response. A fun fact, HIV targets helper T cells and CD4, which stops the proper function of the immune system. Without the main kickstart, i.e. the helper T cell, the B cells and cytotoxic T cells cannot be created. 8 helps the cytotoxic T cells stay connected to the class 1 MHC presented by cancerous or infected body cells. Without the MHC, the process of antigen removal and destruction of these infected cells would not go so smoothly because they would not be able to stay connected. All in all, CD8 and CD4, without them, would hinder the effectiveness of helper T cells and cytotoxic T cells in doing their jobs. Do you need a new limb or organ? MHC, or the major histocompatibility complex molecules, mediate the immune response and rejection of new organs or limbs. You could say that the MHC puts its MHC A+ stamp of approval on all of the blood and the cells inside of your body. So, If an organ or limb or graft is put onto a body and its MHC stamp isn't up to par with the MHC of your body, so per se, your body has the MHC A plus stamp and the organ donor body has an MHC B plus stamp, of course the body is going to reject said organ, limb, or graft, and it's going to die, and you might die in the process. The closer the donor MHC is to yours, the more likely your body is to accept the organ, limb, or graft. That's why, in twins, it's better to take organs to give or take from the twins because they have almost identical MHC. Now, there are ways that doctors try to get around this. They can suppress the immune system during the course of the treatment, but this causes... So, if your donor has an A minus MHC and your MHC is the A plus MHC, your MHC will approve of this A minus MHC for the most part, and the body will most likely not reject the organ, limb, or graft, saving your life and not wasting the organ, limb, or graft. That's all I have for you today. I hope that everything I said has helped. The beginning part is more for honors biology since it simply explains the processes of innate immunity and acquired immunity. The AP level up sections are more in depth about specific parts of those innate and acquired immunity systems.